All right. Hey, welcome to episode number 42 of the Dodgeball Marketing Podcast. I'm Michael. This is Chris.
I'm Chris. That is my name.
And 42 is, if you read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe, the meaning of life. So today's topic is how to think about your website images for SEO. Not just the user experience, but how do they factor into whether or not you show up high or low in search results.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to talk about.
Google cares about that.
Yeah, a lot.
Google cares about
cares about
everything.
a lot. Chris,
Google cares
you've
about
got
it.
number one. So get us rolling here.
So number one here is just use high quality images. The main thing here is to make sure they're original images. Use real images as much as possible and avoid stock photos. Sometimes you can't avoid that.
Yeah.
But if you can, use original images. Good resolution. So you don't want images that are from your flip phone from 2004.
That's right.
So get a high resolution image, but not too high resolution, as we'll talk about in a minute in terms of file size and things like that.
That's right.
And then, of course, I said it's for real people, real products, real services. So this is I would say this is halfway between the user experience and the Google robots.
That's right. But
you
user
wanna-
experience impacts
impacts
SEO.
their own. So it's like user experience indirect. The robots are looking at user experience. So make sure that you have good, pleasing, original, high resolution images.
Yeah, and that's tough. There's a little bit of a cost benefit analysis you have to do, and so often the situation that we're in with a client coming in to us ready to kind of level up their marketing, we're often saying, well, this website's not going to work. We need to do that over, but we can do some SEO for a year and then redo the website. And so during that time of kind of doing some SEO on an existing website, we're often coaching them to kind of queue up. Get some smartphones out in the field activated. Think about patients who had a great experience who, when they came in, they would sign a media release and let you get an over-the-shoulder shot of a smiling account rep or somebody who's a frontline worker.
The cool thing about image, like if it's 2004, right? The only way to get images, you got to find a local photographer.
That's right.
And but like this, like I got the new iPhone, like 10X or
yeah.
whatever it is. It's got like 7 cameras on the back or whatever.
Yeah.
This thing takes amazing images and you can edit them on. So like, that problem is kind of solved if you can just take a few minutes to learn how your phone camera works. You can even do wide angle images. This is pretty cool for interior shots,
Yeah.
So no excuses. Get your phone, learn how to shoot images, edit images on your phone, and you can get there.
That's right.
Or close to there.
Yeah, even a handful of videos on YouTube to just say how to create good images for my website.
Sorry to all the professional photographers watching this.
Hey, we had a good run while we had it. And a side note, if you are thinking about anything for sort of the hero area of the website, back up a little bit so there's a little more background for the web developer to work with.
Yeah, that's good.
That's a good little
overshoot it.
sidebar.
Shoot it 10 towards wide.
Yeah.
You can always crop in.
You can crop in. You can't add data.
Can't add,
it's brutal to try to expand an image that wasn't planned
Yeah.
for that. Next up, size images correctly. I'm going to talk about 2 things that can kill the SEO of your website if done incorrectly that have to do with sizing images. 2 separate ways of talking about sizing images that are both important. When we say the size of an image, that's a vague statement.
Yeah, because it could mean file size or it could mean
dimensions.
Size, yeah.
So let's divide it into two categories. Dimensions is the size of the image in terms of the 2 dimensions that it takes up on an XY axis on a web page.
So pixels, right?
Yeah, pixels. Yeah.
Pixels.
So if you are using an image, for example, like maybe on your homepage you have a block of content that says, hey, here's a little bit about us, and maybe you've got a little inset image like a picture of the team. If you are taking a raw file from a photographer and loading that through a content management system or through however your website's built, it may or may not automatically resize the image for you. So what could be happening when you load that image is you could be forcing it down into the display window with HTML rather than editing the image. And if that's happening because of your setup, you're actually forcing the viewer of the image to download into their display in their browser to view it. I don't mean like a separate step, like if they download. I mean like if they look at it. They're actually having to load that entire big image
which is unnecessary.
And this is going to crush your page speed in a bad way. Not like we're crushing it, but like, no, you just you just broke that. So your homepage,
losing customers.
your homepage is the highway of people coming in to your site. And if the page speed on that is damaged with one of these images being pushed in. So what's the trick? Well, depending on your situation with your website and how images are showing, you can just test this out. You can right click on it and say view in a new tab, view images view image in a new tab. And if that works and you go look at it, see if there's hover over it if you're in Chrome and see if there's a magnifying glass, and then go further, click on it if it's a plus sign and get the biggest display image. And then if that's like a big image, you got a problem. You need to resize that image in Photoshop or some other photo editing tool, even maybe Paint or something, or have someone do it for you who's a Photoshop person, and then load something that's going to work for most users and most screens.
And Michael, another tip, you might know some specific plugins here, but there's some plugins that can accomplish this.
That's right.
If you're using WordPress, right?
Yeah, that's right.
What are some of those?
I don't know them off the top of my head, but
I just remember, I think Smush is one.
Smush, okay.
And it'll do that kind of resizing for you.
Yeah. So with CMSs, you often have a lot of tools for this, but if you're just getting that first blush, but yeah, Smush, that's a great idea. And then second item on this is a little bit easier to understand. It's the image quality. So if you've ever worked with images and you have, for example, a JPEG, a JPG extension on the end of it, that's a JPEG. We call it a JPEG. And you can save it at 100% quality, or you can knock it down to like 80% quality and cut the file size of that image in half just by losing 20% of the quality.
And most of the time the viewer doesn't.
And that's, that 20% is not really perceptible. Now, Google would like it if the entire world was just textures and colors and no images were being loaded, because they're hyper focused on speed. So you've got to do some trade-offs here, but image size is important both in dimensions and image quality.
Perfect. Love it. Okay. So next we've got optimize image file names. So we talk about this a lot, but anytime where you can give Google information about who you are, what you do, your services, and your geography.
This idea was worth $1 million to me.
Yeah.
I've gotten $1 million in sales from this.
Yeah, we can do a separate podcast on that. But so important. And the reason it's important because Google has a hard time. Google can read text really well, right? The robots. Pictures, not so much. It's hard for Google at this point in time to scan a picture and figure out what that is, who's in the picture, what's going on. Because it's a picture. They do the same thing with video. So that's why this file names and like alt text and all that kind of stuff is important. I know you're going to talk about alt text next, but including things inside of your file name and your alt text that are descriptive of what it is. And you've got on here use hyphenate between words. So talk about that, because I'm not really sure what the reason for that.
Yeah, if you have an image on your page, the file name of that image is absolutely an SEO factor. And so if you just name it the number that your camera produced when it saved it to the SD card, .jpg, that's communicating no useful information with that file name. So you can rename the image before you load it, and depending on your setup, if your CMS doesn't mess that up, or you don't have some complicated system that some IT group has forced on you, then save your images and use images and handle them so that you have some keywords in that file name. So and we'll use geographic info in there. So
don't call it orthopedic clinic, call it Scranton Orthopedic Clinic.
Yeah. And if you dig into goeps.com and look at some of the images on the services pages, you'll find things like search engine optimization agency Nashville TN, all separated by hyphens to name a file .jpg.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
It's one of these, like we talk about this a lot. It's one of these like tiny things you can do.
Super huge.
It's just one time, doing one tiny thing isn't gonna help. But if you do tiny things like that over and over again in different places, it's gonna add up. As you
and I can absolutely demonstrate this, and I'll seg to our next point on this. We did this with optimizing image file names in 2016, and in particular the regional identifiers. And this generated a new flow of new business to GoEps. We're sitting here in Nashville, Tennessee, and my company is GoEps, and Chris's is Bullhorn Media. But on the goeps.com site, we used local identifiers in these file names and immediately started getting leads in from California, where they, for whatever reason, had either Tennessee dollars or Tennessee relationships that needed to be served with our services. And so they were doing searches from California like Tennessee Marketing Agency or Nashville, Tennessee Marketing Agency or Performance Online Marketing Nashville.
Yeah.
And we were, guess what? Guess who's coming up in California now? Because we serve a nationwide audience. And this generated deals for us. And I'm kind of on the conservative side saying $1 million in revenue. But since then,
Crazy.
It's generated $1 million in revenue.
Yeah.
All right, I'll take us to our next point. Optimize image alt text. This is the same but different from the last point we covered. So if you're watching
Not
this
a file
as,
name.
if you're watching this as a full episode, you're going to get all this together. But you can kind of watch all these clips for this episode. I strongly recommend the whole episode. So don't miss out on using alt text. A lot of times when we take a new client in, we'll do a 101-point checklist review of their website and score everything. And one of the things that we do with that is scan for missing alt text for images. And so we'll flag those and identify those and convert those into actions to go back and add alt text. Alt text is a piece of text information that's affiliated or associated with the image file in the HTML that's being used to serve the website page. So what search engines are doing, or the reason this came about, is because if someone was maybe vision impaired, back in the day, this became a way to let them hear through a website reader what the image was in the page and sort of not miss out on that key piece of the story of the web page. But what Google realized was that the information associated with images, the file name and the alt text, was kind of a backdoor way to say what the page was about. And even though so many images are so poorly named, this is absolutely an SEO factor. And there have been a lot of experiments to test this. There have even been times when Yahoo or Google or a search engine would say that something was not a factor, and someone would load cryptic information into the alt text and then let it get indexed and do a search of it. And guess what? It always shows up. So there have been a lot of articles and a lot of things over the years that have said, oh, we don't look at that. We don't look at this. Guess what? They do. So alt text is really great. So number one, don't miss out on the opportunity to use alt text. Number two, use a description of what's in the image and why. Don't try to fake it. Don't try to show up for something more popular than what your page is about. Communicate clearly and accurately to maintain the quality of the content. But use some keywords in there. If you have some keywords like what the service is about in a way that people search for that's really popular, and the same thing Chris mentioned with file names, use some geographic identifiers. Those are all good keywords, and use those in the alt text in a way that is going to be a part of your workflow for image handling and part of those optimizations so that you're consistently putting that content out on the pages you're creating.
Perfect. Our final way to use images to improve your SEO is optimize your image captions. So this is probably one of those, Michael, that is kind of straddling between user experience and just for the robots, right?
Yeah.
But when you show captions right beneath your image, you're helping the user to kind of give context to the image, and it's one of those. One more signal to Google, just like your file name of your image is, and just like the alt text of your image, of what that image is about, why it matters, who's in the image, what they're doing. You can put geography in there. So this is just another place you can put your keywords and your geo modifiers. Just one more signal to Google's who you are, what you do, and where you do it, right? So that's another one, and of course it helps the user. So use captions underneath your images to kind of further that stream of information to Google.
And these are visible text.
Yeah, this is the only thing that's visible
below the image.
Right, that's the only thing of the last three things.
The file name and the alt text are all kind of hidden. Image size, that's kind of a hidden thing, but this caption is something people can see.
Yeah.
I'll add one comment to this, something that I really like in the way of usability. I don't know if this is a left brain, right brain type of thing, or I don't know what this comes down to with the way people take in information, but it seems that a lot of people are sort of image heavy and a lot of people are more text heavy. And I actually have a master's degree in church history, which is kind of random, but one of the things that I studied was the history of text in use of images. And there's a really great book on the history of this by Tessa Watt. You can find it on Amazon, but it shows that over the time of sort of the history of intellectual content, media, and publishing, there's been a rise in the use of text in images in art, even sacred art. And that really reflects the Enlightenment and the change of literacy among the population. Well, the way that plays into kind of what we do every day is website usability. And so what I've really come to enjoy in terms of what I see in a design that I think works is a strong singular image that makes an impact, a headline that encapsulates it, and then where it's needed, some supporting text. And this applies in a number of areas. Any kind of section that's teasing blog posts, like a blog overview page, a mix of images and text, CTAs, images themselves, if they're in the content, even if there's another section of primary text supporting it, I think that caption is a really good tool. And yeah, any kind of place where you've got little modules where you're introducing ideas, I think it's good to use those captions and have some supporting copy. People, an image doesn't hit everybody the same way. They don't get that. They don't get the idea the way that you want them to. That supporting text seems to increase conversion rate everywhere that we see it pop up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, that's all we got for images. I hope that was helpful. Go ahead and follow us on all the socials. It's Dodgeball SEO on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and you'll get access to new episodes, marketing resources, everything that we're doing. So please follow us there. Follow us on YouTube, wherever if you're watching on YouTube. And subscribe on your favorite podcast player. But thank you for listening or watching. And
awesome.
We'll see you on the next one.
Thanks, everybody.